Hey folks, here's a small update on Headhunters, a game that I'm working on, previously known as Breach Buddies, just changed the name to Headhunters. And this game is basically an indie game where you have a top-down view and you control several different soldiers at once. You can manually control one or have them all controlled by AI. And the tagline would basically be a game like Rainbow Six Siege if you controlled every single one of the players on your team at once. So that is what I'm working on. And today, the update I wanted to share with you is the production I've went through in order to create our game's main menu, which I'm really proud of right now. And I sourced the art for this project through Fiverr. In particular, when I say project, I mean this particular screen. So I wanted to show you basically the conversations I had from start to finish, how I got to where I am, and sort of what the revision process looked like along the way. Let's jump into it. I'm going to share my screen now for my first conversation with some of the artists. So basically, I went out to Fiverr here, and I've had really good success with finding great 2D art on Fiverr. Maybe there's also great 3D art. I've had help with 3D technical art, but not necessarily 3D modeling. So maybe that's something I need to explore in the future. But we'll see when the game needs it. For the most part, I'd say I buy the physical assets usually on the asset store. I've had a lot of success with that. And let me actually jump over to there. So this is an asset which I've purchased recently, and this is basically the screen that I started with. So this is sort of a template, and I changed the text here to just like, the basic font and said Headhunters. And then I was like, I don't really have like a little font isn't enough. I really want a cool infographic. And that's when I decided, okay, let's go to a graphic artist and let's try to hire them to make a cool logo. So it was basically me renaming the game to Headhunters that inspired me to actually revisit the cover art and say, okay, now let's get together and actually make a real splash screen that's going to sell the vision. So that's when I went to Lisa and a bunch of other people. And Fiverr's a little bit of a tricky game because you want to get the highest quality for the lowest price, and so you kind of got to judge what different people can provide. So and the other thing too is like maybe somebody like doesn't give you the highest fidelity art, but they might have a really good idea that you could bring to an artist who maybe doesn't have the best idea to bring to the table, but they can create really high fidelity art. So there's a little bit of a game that you have to play there. But I was thinking, oh, I might hire several artists, and then I ultimately just hired one, and she knocked it out on the first try. So that's where we were. But basically, I think Lisa, I don't remember what it was. I think she offered like $100, and then I don't remember what this guy offered. I think this guy was probably like 90 or something around there. But he said that he only does minimalist design, so it wasn't a good fit for me. And then these guys they seemed very professional, but they were like way off. They wanted like $400 for one of their designs. So and this guy wanted 150, and I think I ultimately went with Lisa, who I guess was on the less expensive end. But she said that she would provide 5 mock-ups, which is actually a lot of design concepts. And some of them were like not as well baked as other ones, but I wound up kind of taking all the ideas she got for me and combining them into one, which you'll see in just a moment. But first, let me show you the PDF that I sent over to her, which was the initial design spec. So I had looked at other games that are in the genre that I wanted to make, which is this sort of high stakes, sort of like battle royale experience. And 2 of them are Escape from Tarkov and The Cycle Frontier. And what I liked about both of these logos when I was looking at them is that they have like sort of pictures inside of the text. So for example, in Escape from Tarkov, in the A here, you can clearly see that there's some sort of military man holding a gun, and his body sort of forms the A. Likewise, there are buildings of Tarkov in sort of a background vignette of the KO and V. And I think that's really cool. Similarly, in the Cycle Frontier, there's like these, not as creative, I guess, but there's the like claw marks maybe on the Y and the C, and a little bullet hole on the E. And I was like, okay, I like that idea of sort of like a picture hidden in the picture. Of course, there's the famous, this is like, there's a lot of really good examples, but I think the UPS logo has something like that, or was it FedEx? No, it's FedEx. FedEx has like a little something like that where, let's check out their logo really quick. You probably have already seen this, but like the negative space between the E and the X actually forms an arrow to show like they're always on the move or something like that. And I love that. I love like little hidden stuff in the design. So that was something that I tried to communicate I wanted to make happen. And when I talked about the actual iconography of what to hide inside of there, because again, they don't know anything about my game, I mentioned demon circles. I think they're actually called pentagrams, but I call them demon circles. And basically, they're important in satanic imagery, and this game is going to have a lot of demons and summoning and shit like that. So I thought it'd be cool to incorporate some of that. And then I think other things I mentioned were bullets, skulls, and things of that nature. It'd be cool if she incorporated them. So I paid her, I think $100 or whatever it was. She got to work, and here are the results that she came up with. And instantly, I thought they were pretty good. So let's extract that and jump inside. Okay, so one of the things that kind of frustrated me about this artist, and it was a frustration the whole way through, is they didn't ever provide the source assets until we had agreed on the final thing. And that's really frustrating as somebody who is, a little tech savvy, because maybe, you're like some small business owner, you don't know how to do Photoshop and shit like that. But for me, I constantly want to crack open the image in a Photoshop or GIMP or whatever the tool is that you use and actually edit the layers and move shit around and try to figure out what's going to work. So what I ultimately did, took a bit of time, but I would like take the concept images she sent me and then just convert them into like an editable document and then start fucking around with the layers. So I would say in general, I was pretty that was pretty frustrating, but I kept asking her to just send me the source assets, and she didn't really understand me. So it is what it is, right? There's going to be that kind of inherent miscommunication over like the internet sometimes. Anyways, here's what she came up with, and instantly knocked it out of the park. I loved the idea of using the satanic imagery to kind of create the A. I thought it's a little bit too hard to tell that's an A, frankly, but I like the idea, and it was something I would stick with the whole way through. And the idea of like a little bullet creating the E, I thought that worked out really well as well. So that was her concept 4, which I think was instantly sort of the star of the show. Let me see, what were some other concepts she came up with? So we've got, let me see, can I make this a little bit bigger? Is there a way to zoom in here? Okay, yes, there is. Okay, cool. So here's Headhunters. For some reason, this really made me think of GTA. And I like that. I think it looks like a really cool logo, but it probably wasn't a great fit for the design of the game. The Uzi and the pistol here, it's a little bit crazy how she's doing that with the guns. I think it's really creative, but I just don't think it was a good fit for the game. I was checking this out, and I think it may have been either this demon skull or one later, but I was really inspired by this idea of having like horns in the logo, like a demon skull, because I feel like it's hard to communicate the devil as a concept, and maybe you can debate this with me, but I feel like the most iconic image to convey the devil is like the horns, right? Would you agree? I feel like that is kind of the first thing that comes to mind. So I love the idea of having the horns somewhere, and that was something that I would actually carry through as a concept all the way to the end. She did this thing here where she cut through the logo sort of diagonally, and I think it just makes it harder to read. There was nothing really working there, but it's kind of interesting, I guess. Let's jump. Oh, what's next? This one I loved. I thought this logo was really strong, and it would ultimately be this one in combination with this one, the fourth one, that would kind of influence my final version, which I'll show you in just a moment. But what I love about this is the color scheme. I love the sort of, I don't know what the gradient, I guess you might say, from sort of like the blue to the dark black. I like that the iconography inside of the A. I felt like that was a little bit more subtle than just using a demon circle as the A itself. And I think the claw marks through the H and the E were great. I thought that was really good. This is a very similar concept. Frankly, I feel like it's the same thing, but you just change the A to be a dude, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't really look like an A, to be honest. So that one kind of was scrapped as soon as it arrived. And then this one was very interesting. It was a whole different direction, which is really nice, right? Because when you get these mock-ups from somebody, you don't want to see this and then this, right? This is the same shit, right? For the most part. It is very, very subtle difference. This one and this one, totally different, right? This is way out of left field. It's giving me like an Alien vibe. I don't know if Alien Isolation has this font or something. That's what I'm thinking of. Why am I thinking of that? Alien... No, they don't have that font at all. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but I've definitely seen this font before, something like it, and it made me think of like aliens and like space and like spookiness, maybe a little bit, or like science, and that didn't really fit the whole like sort of demon grunge kind of hellish in aesthetic that I was going for. So it wasn't really a good fit. And then this brought me back to number four. So ultimately, as I said before, it was number four and number five that kind of inspired me the most, and I decided to, squeeze them together, wiggle them around, and see what I could come up with. So I broke Photoshop open or GIMP, and I started to, get a little bit creative, and ultimately I gave her a bunch of feedback, and I came back with this concept. So as you can see, I kept the skull in the A, but I added horns to the skull to make it a demon skull, which I thought looked really cool. And I also added the bullet path into that design. So I tried to incorporate them all together. The other thing that you can kind of see faintly in the background here is I added a demon circle, but instead of being the A, it sort of bordered the A to accentuate the A without impeding the readability as much. I put this into Unity and I made a little mock-up scene so I can kind of visualize it. And this is what it looked like. And then I think I also made a little video. Is this a video? Can I play this? Yes, I can. All right, so check that out. So immediately I'm thinking about what's like a dynamic element that I can have in my main menu, because main menus that don't move are kind of lame. I feel like you're not fully you're not fully capturing the opportunities inherent in like interactive media if everything's just static imagery, right? So what I decided to do was I thought, oh, the demon circle that can spin, so that might be kind of cool. And the demon circle I ultimately got, I couldn't use the one she gave me because the source image was like obfuscated. So I downloaded one from the internet. And I like that demon circle, but the issue with the demon circle I used here is that the lines are so straight. It looks like, if you're like dealing with a cult, you don't expect them to be like drawing things perfectly, right? It's got to be kind of grungy. And I thought this demon circle was a way better fit because it's kind of like off balance and it almost looks like it's written in blood or sludge or something like that. Kind of like, a little bit more grungy, I guess is the term. Where this is like very, it's like Times New Roman cult simulator or something, right? It's like it's a little bit too erudite or scholastic and too straight edge, let's say. And so that didn't really work too well, but I like the imagery nonetheless. So I told her, we need the demon circle, but you got to make it, look a little fucked up, basically. And the other dynamic element, which you'll see here, is I thought it'd be really cool to sort of have that bullet path sort of filling in with some juice or loading bar stuff or whatever. So that's ultimately what you see there, and you'll get a better picture of it in a moment because that's something that I went with. So anyways, I took those feedback notes to her, and I said, hey, blah, 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 let me know what you could do. And ultimately, she got back to me with another bunch of stuff. And of course, this happens over maybe like a series of like a whole week or like 2 weeks or something like that. So let me see what she came up with. So this is what she made? This is what she made, this one, number 9. So let's check that out. So totally did not understand what I was talking about clearly with the bullet path here because it only goes through the H now. But the demon now has these horns in the skull, which I thought looked really cool. And ultimately we went with that design. And I think there was a little bit more back and forth, but ultimately we settled on a final version and, she got her money and everything. And I think, so the total price turned into something like $117 plus a tip, I think. And I think I totally got my money's worth. I was really happy with it. So I'd love to jump into Unity now and show you what that sort of final version looks like. And again, you will have the backing track music as well. So here, we'll just play that for a moment so you can kind of see it all in action. All right, cool. Let's just mute that and talk about it a little bit. So as you can see, that loading bar became a lot thicker, and the H, she thickened up all the letters so that having the loading bar kind of cut in between them didn't obscure that this was an H, which was an issue in the beginning that I didn't really go into, but there was lots of little details that I didn't bother to talk about. This bullet was actually an image I sourced online because I tried to make the bullet blue and it just was not working. You couldn't tell it was a bullet. So I made it silver and now it stands out just the right amount. It looks really good. The image that she came up with, the sort of grunge demon circle in the background, the pentagram, it looks great. She really knocked that out of the park. And she actually had two circles, which I thought was such a cool idea, because what I ultimately wound up doing was I had, like, how do I say this? The animations were not synchronized, right? They were delayed in some way. And what that does is it kind of makes the middle circle move at a different speed than the outer circle. And that ultimately worked really well. I think it looks great that it's not all spinning at once. It's kind of each one of the different things is kind of spinning in a different speed, and that adds a nice dynamism to the element, which I think looks really good. Of course, the skull in the A looked great. I think that worked really well. And then to top it all off, I added a bit of glow to the whole image, and I think that kind of sold a really good feeling. A few more, now that we can go into little technical details for the scene, you'll notice also that on top of the default image, I've added rain. So there's actually, of course, in the default image, there was lines of white, right, to kind of, let's say, suggest rain. But I actually added a dynamic element that looks like rain. And that was something I stole from a Cinti asset, like some 3D rain. I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere in the scene here. It's an FX effect, and this is like pretty hacky what I'm doing here. But I think basically I have an actual camera in the scene, like right here. Or where is it? Maybe it's right here. Yeah, so I actually have a literal camera in the scene that is shooting on a world space canvas. And then I have the rain VFX. It's really hard to see, but the rain VFX is actually in the middle of the view frustrum. So it's like right in front of the camera. So, I mean, when you're on an indie budget, you do what you can do to get the shit done, right? So I didn't have a 2D rain effect, which probably would have been cheaper to make anyway. But I had a 3D rain effect, so I just made my whole canvas a world space canvas, and I had it in between the view frustrum. And the player is not going to know a difference, right? But it looks good, and I was happy with it. But obviously, this is kind of ridiculous. If you were creating these assets from scratch, you would certainly just do a 2D effect, But it is what it is, right? Any other things that I could talk about here? Well, yeah, let me just show you what's going on with the loading bar, how I created that sort of like wave effect of like several things at once. Well, what I basically have here is, let me pull over that inspector. I basically have an image which is changing its opacity with a fill amount. So this is a linear fill, so basically it goes from 0 to 1, and that may be hard to visualize. So let me just pull one of them over. So if I just pull one of them down, this is kind of what it looks like. It's basically just filling up the image and then slowly fading it out. Okay, hopefully you could see that. And basically I just have a bunch of them going at once, but they're staggered, like I did the rotation animations. They're all going at the same speed so that they kind of keep that nice distance between each one of the sort of break of the wave, let's say. And that looked pretty well. And basically that just required a custom script here. And this script is pretty light. It's basically just setting a custom animation speed for an animator. I don't think I even used this. Oh, okay. I used the delayed start. So basically this had a delayed start of 0, then this had a delayed start of 1, this had a delayed start of 2, 3, and 4. And that's basically what allows it to kind of look staggered with that branch. It looks a little bit weird at the very start of the scene, which maybe I'll show you later, but after it's gone for like a second, it kind of it mellows out and it has that nice 1 second of separation, I guess you should say. But when I say it looks a little weird, it looks fine. It's just different, so it's no big deal. And then when it comes to the rotation of the different pentagrams, it's again the same thing. I have that set anim speed, and they're all running at slightly different speeds, and they also have a delayed start, which is a nice little effect when you're first loading it. So I guess let me just reload it, and you can kind of see what it looks like from the very beginning. Some of the things that you should keep an eye out for that you'll notice are, of course, the actual loading bar is going to fill from 0 to 100. You'll also notice that sort of this middle bar with the bullet, it looks a little bit different until it finds that perfect cadence of 1 second of separation. And then finally, the star and the circles around it are going to be slightly delayed in an effect that I think looks very good, more so than if they were just to all start spinning at the same time. So let's restart that scene and check it out. Okay, so as you saw, the middle star started spinning first, and then it sort of caught the other guys. Sort of like the middle star started spinning first, and it sort of caught the other guys. Sort of like a combination lock or something like that. And I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing I think I did was I composited this image a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the right word. But basically, I chopped it up in such a way that I could establish foreground elements, because originally it was just one image. So what that allowed me to do was to bring this guy in front of the loading bar, which I thought felt kind of immersive, felt kind of cool. Of course, that may be a little bit annoying if if he's obscuring the loading bar and you're like stuck right here at 25, but I think it's irrelevant. And then it's subtle, but it was actually very important to do, was I also took the top section here and I made that a foreground element so that the top of the rotating pentagram circles would fade behind it so that they weren't overlapping, because ultimately that just didn't look very good. And that's it. That's everything that went into creating the main menu for my new game, Headhunters, also known as Breach Buddies. And I will have more updates on this game forthcoming. Sorry I haven't been making too many videos lately. The reason why is because I've got a full-time job. And hey man, that's really busy. So I've been starting a new job, taking on some new responsibilities, and I want to do a great job there because that's what pays the bills, and that always comes first. So that's been my main focus. But every now and then, when I get a free moment, on a weekend night like this, I'll invest the time to bringing this game one step closer to what I want. And I'm really proud of sort of nailing the vision on this main menu, because I think it's an important step in the right direction on determining what is the character of this game. And I probably alluded to it already, but I love the skull of the age so much. I thought, hey, you know what? This might just become the logo of the game. So that's something I'm experimenting with right now, but I love the concept. I think it's going to be I think this skull with the horns looks really dope, so I'm excited to see more of it. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have questions in the comments section, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.